This week, we welcome John McClure, Chief Information Security Officer at Laureate Education, to discuss accelerating security with security automation. In the Leadership and Communication section, developing a risk management approach to cybersecurity, how automation can protect against data breaches, the problem with cyber insurance, outdated incentives, and more. Business Security Weekly starts now.
This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where we explore the business of security to improve the security of business. Your trusted source for actionable insights on leadership, communication, and innovation. Get ready for Business Security Weekly. Cybercriminals are using social engineering loaded with urgency and fear to successfully prey on victims, your employees, or your customers. Protect your Office 365 email from today's most sophisticated attacks with Barracuda Email Threat Scanner. It's a free tool to help protect your business from these hard-to-detect attacks. The Barracuda Email Threat Scanner uses artificial intelligence to hunt and eliminate Office 365 email threats. Find the cybersecurity threats hiding in your Office 365 email right now. Get your free email threat scan at securityweekly.com/Barracuda.
Welcome to Business Security Weekly. This is episode number 212, recorded April 5th, 2021. I am your host, Matt Alderman, here in sunny Colorado. Joining me from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island is my first co-host, Mr. Paul Asadorian.
Hey, Matt. Good to be here.
Happy Easter.
Happy
Passover.
Easter, right?
All the holidays, yeah. And joining us remotely today is my second co-host, Mr. Jason Albuquerque.
Happy. These darn 4 o'clock meetings that we have to have, I wish I could be in studio, but business calls.
Yeah, I was smoking a Padron last night. Renee's here. Yeah, so we were hanging out, after Easter, and I pulled out the cigars, and Paul, you gave me this beautiful, I think it was the 1964 or whatever. And
I'm
like, oh my gosh.
Can't go wrong with Padrones.
Oh, yeah. That was a great smoke last night.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't break out in 1926 yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was a good day to do it. Do you want to stay in the loop on all things Security Weekly? Visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to your favorite podcast catcher or our YouTube channel. Sign up for the mailing list, join our Discord server, and follow us on our newest live streaming platform, Twitch. You'll also notice some new branding out there, the new Security Weekly logos, some new type fonts, colors, etc. All have been updated on securityweekly.com. John McClure is the Chief Information Security Officer for Laureate Education. He is a proud military veteran. John has worked for more than 20 years in the critical infrastructure and information security arena and supported the federal government and intelligence community before transitioning to the commercial sector. John, welcome to Business Security Weekly.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, when we were deciding a topic for this, 2 topics came up, and it's funny because to me, I've tried to combine them: vulnerability management and security automation. And we're going to talk more about the security automation side, but to bring everybody kind of full circle, one of the things I tried to do when Paul and I were at Tenable was to get someone like Tenable and even the other vulnerability management players to think about the automation pieces of not just collecting the data about the vulnerability, but doing something with it, right? Some sort of automated patching or something, right? And so when you propose the 2 topics, I'm like, oh yeah, we can talk about this for hours. But to get us started, when I wrote the description for this, I looked at your one slide and I said, all right, so is anybody dealing with alert overload, manual processes, multiple disparate tools, talent shortage, and or budget constraints? And the answer is, of course.
Everybody.
Who isn't? Right.
Yeah, so let's start with the challenges that most organizations face. Describe this from your perspective, being at Laureate Education. Obviously, a lot of people struggle with these challenges, but let's put it into perspective.
Yeah, I think for us especially, we have a pretty lean team and a pretty wide landscape in terms of what we need to protect and defend against. Laureate's a global corporation. We have over 20 universities. in our portfolio, and most of them are in Central and South America, a little bit in North America. But, about 50,000 employees or so, a little bit pretty close to 750,000 students. So we've got a lot to protect. And like you hit on earlier, I mean, those constraints that I think we're all challenged with are tough. And so I think one of our early drivers was for sure the overload of the amount of alerts we're getting and how we could really deal with that in a logical way, as well as that talent shortage, which is super tough. Especially here in the United States, in terms of finding enough staff and enough qualified staff and being able to retain them. So we started looking obviously at a number of different approaches. For sure, we landed on SOAR, that orchestration and automation piece that we thought was missing. And we really think that's continued to be the future for what we'll build around that. We know that we can't hire ourselves out of this challenge in terms of overload. We know that we can't buy ourselves out of it. There's surely not one more product that we could put in our arsenal of tools that would put us in, the better place, get us over the proverbial hump. So we really are more and more leaning into and forward on the orchestration automation side.
So let's talk about staffing for a second, right? You
Sure.
said, you don't have a big staff. I mean, how many are on your security team? Are they all local in the US? Or are they kind of remote and scattered all over? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So about half of my staff is inside the United States, and about half is spread between Brazil, Mexico, and Peru. So we have a staff of probably all in all about 35 folks, spread pretty evenly between the U.S. The U.S. team primarily focused on large global initiatives that impact all of those regional universities in different countries, and then we have some local teams embedded in Mexico, Peru, et cetera, that really focus on delivering locally. So we're pretty distributed.
Yeah, and I'm just curious from a recruiting perspective, is it easier for you to recruit in the States or over in the other countries?
Yeah, perhaps a little easier personally to tap into my networks in the United States and people that I've known for ages. But in terms of some of the more complex skill sets and some of the newer tool sets, I think we've had better luck in the United States. I think for some of the skill sets that might be a little less specific around a tool set, I think we've been able to find that locally pretty easily as well. But for example, we're pretty heavily invested in Cortex on the orchestration side, and for us to find that skill set, we've had a lot better luck inside the US.
Got it. So let's dig in a little bit to Cortex and
Sure.
security automation in general, right? Let's see, Cortex is the old Phantom product, right?
No, Palo Alto, the old.
Oh yeah, no, it was. I can't remember now which one they bought. Yeah, Splunk bought Phantom, I think.
Yes.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah,
It was not Immunio. No, I had it and then I lost it. Damn it.
It'll come back to me too.
Yeah. Anyways, so you're using Cortex. So let's talk orchestration automation. Anyways, like
Demisto.
how do you start?
Demisto. Thank you, John.
That's right. Gosh, too many acquisitions.
We can't keep them all straight.
Yeah, can't keep them straight anymore. So when you went down this path, I mean, where did you start? Because when you think about orchestrate automation, you could start in a lot of different places. I mean, obviously one area, because you're probably a Palo Alto shop, is the firewalls and logging and some other stuff. But kind of walk us through, how did you approach orchestration automation in your environment?
Yeah, for us specifically, I think obviously there's a few different approaches that have been applied, and not all SOARs are the same, for sure. Some are super, super capable and require a lot of programming type knowledge around that team. And then there are other ones that also help focus on case management and some things like that. So for us specifically, we knew that we also wanted an application and program that could help us with case management as well. So for us, that limited our field a bit. To your point, Phantom, I think, was the big leader when we started looking, and they had recently been acquired by Splunk, which was attractive to us as a Splunk shop. But when we really started looking for other capabilities beyond just the automation, but also case management and some of the reporting and things that we wanted to get out of it, as well as some of the licensing specifics that were attractive to us that really helped us focus in pretty quickly on the solution that provided kind of checked all those boxes. Again, nothing. I think there's some fantastic products out there in the space, but some of them really deliver some different capabilities than the other ones beyond just simple automation.
Right. Yeah. So case management is being a big part of that. All right. So you select your tool.
Yep.
Which use cases did you go after first? Like, where did you decide to focus your initial automation processes? Because again, the list is long. So where do you start?
For sure. Yeah, for us, it was interesting. And I think a lot of people kind of get the cart and the horse kind of in different orders for this. One of the things we made sure going in was that we really had well-defined processes. I think a lot of people think, hey, we're ready to go down this automation path before perhaps they really have well enough defined processes and playbooks on how they actually do the work to get automated and get all excited about the automation play before being ready. So I think we spent a lot of pre-work getting ready. And then after we acquired the product, the first things that we knew we'd be able to do was we really focused on those super high fidelity alerts that are always go the same way. So for example, whether it's C2 traffic or command and control traffic or certain types of malware that we see that we know this is malware. We know we're not going to accidentally automate something here unintended and have unintended consequences back to the infrastructure or to the business. So we really focused on those super high fidelity, 100% of the time. This is what this is, and this is how I always handle it. So we're able to find some early use cases like that really started to help us work through how the product worked, how we could integrate it, how we could gain confidence with it, really start getting some good reporting out of it, start seeing some savings, time savings, cost savings, et cetera, out of it pretty early before we moved on to some of the more complex automations that we work with today.
Now that's a good point. Now, so for folks going into looking at a SOAR platform, your recommendation would be make sure you have your processes solid, make sure you have your playbook solid ahead of the game, right? So you're not behind the curve on the implementation. Were there any adjustments in your playbooks or processes you had to make to align with the platform itself? Like for our listeners, is there anything they need to think about if they do have well-defined processes already and they're ready to make the jump into a SOAR platform? Were there any adjustments or tweaks you had to make to align with the technology?
Yeah, I don't think we had to really tweak our processes a lot, but it was interesting because we thought we had really, really well-defined processes and methodologies on how we approached some of these tasks. But as we started applying those, it started dawning on us, oh yeah, we also do this and we also do this. So it continued to help us kind of think through and really put on paper some tasks that were getting executed, but weren't either executed as frequently or were just kind of, oh yeah, I also do that. And it really hadn't been codified in some of our written and established playbooks for specific analysis tasks. So on the technology side, not really any adjustments, though. As we began to automate things, we realized we might need to increase a volume license for this or that would go out and do a lookup, for example, whether we're looking up something on VirusTotal, or in the past, maybe an analyst would go there once or twice during the day. If we're automating this 1,000 times, we're going to go there 1,000 times. And so there maybe were some slight tweaks on the licensing side for a couple things, but overall, I think a lot of the big players in this space are well integrated, and obviously the SOAR platform itself is built for integration. So not a lot of changes on the technology side.
So Jason's nodding. So that sounds like you answered all those questions. Process, right? So it's an evolution of process, really, because
for sure
you had a well-documented process, and actually you evolved it and expanded it probably as you were implementing it within the tool.
For sure, yeah. Again, we really thought we had it nailed, and that's why I think, as again, folks who are out there and looking at it, again, I think it's a fantastic opportunity to accelerate time to detection, reduce dwell times, cost savings, try to tackle some of that manpower challenges we're talking about and skill sets. But it's tough and it's complex. You for sure need to make sure that you know what you're after, you know what integrations you're looking for, how you're going to measure success, right? Is it I'm going to automate this much, or is it I'm going to be able to transition some of my skilled staff more to the challenging tasks at hand and threat hunting and that type of thing, or how are we really going to measure success? Because at the end of the day, as a technology leader, I know I'm going to get asked, hey, what was our ROI? How did this improve us as a company? What's your real return here? And so we also defined that early on too, because I think that's can be a little squishy for people on what is success of automation. They talk a lot in the security space. Success is nothing happens, right? Nothing reportable happens. And so how did we make something reportable out of this deployment that really told a good story back to the business? So it was something we really thought through early and a lot, and it went slower, even though we thought we were extremely well prepared. It went a bit slower than we'd hoped, but I think now we've got some good momentum behind us.
So I want to go into the business case a little more in a second, but I want to talk about the other technologies you had in the environment. I mean, what's the bare minimum from a technology stack and maturity stack in your tool set? And I'm also curious, are there things you decided to get rid of or replace because they were no longer needed? I want people to understand kind of what are like the bare minimum tooling that needs to be in place before a SOAR really starts to make sense.
Yeah, for us, a SIM. And then whatever might be feeding that. I mean, to your point, our technology stack's not terribly unique compared to probably a lot of big businesses out there, whether it's firewalls and IPSs and anti-malware products, EDR, et cetera. So all of that is feeding into our SIM, which does a lot of the early correlations and deduplications and things like that before it hands it off to the SOAR. So the SIM, super critical for us. Obviously the SOAR, and then on the backside of the SOAR, how are we handling the data when the SOAR is done with it? At least the security piece, right? Whether that's ticket creation and that sort of thing. And we're happen to be a ServiceNow shop. But it's interesting because I think that in terms of the replacement question, which also feeds into what do I need in the stack? I think that there's a day where we're going to see some convergence between SIM and SOAR. And I think we're seeing some of that already, though it has a ways to go. SOARs are great for doing what I want you to do today with it, but not as good if I need to go do a look back for a long period of time that I might need to do in a forensic investigation and really need to lean more heavily into my SIM. But we are seeing where people are connecting tools directly into their SOARs. That's not something we're doing right now. Again, we're kind of pre-staging everything and doing a lot of data manipulation and massaging in the SIM before handing it to the SOAR. But I think ultimately there may be that displacement opportunity for a SIM, or we'll see the SOAR become part of the SIM and we'll see more of that natural integration between the two.
Yeah, but it sounds like the gap, though, that's missing still in order to take your tool set directly into a SOAR is the look back, right? And you're leveraging the SIM for look back and investigation. So until you replace that capability, you're still kind of stuck with the SIM?
Yeah, no, definitely. And the SIM surely is built for these long-term storage opportunities and requirements, as well as we've already got a lot of correlation written in there that we don't necessarily have that logic yet in the SOARs. So yeah, that ability to look back and to do those longer term investigations that might require me to go back, or even looking for patterns in data, right? That needs to go back a longer period of time. I'm really the SOAR is great for here's this event. Let's go do some things around that event or that incident. We have done some unique things that some other customers at Palo Alto, in this case, hadn't done before in terms of actually circling back and feeding that data from the SOAR back into the SIM to continue to make that data more usable and to update cases and things like that. So the integrations between them are pretty strong right now. But until you really see the SOAR also being a data management tool, an event management tool like the SIM, I think that's where it still needs to be quite a bit stronger before it could really displace the SIM.
That's interesting. I want to go down the business case a little bit. a lot of people, it depends on who you talk to. I'm a believer security automation helps us fill some gaps with resources and some of the other challenges that we have. Some people I hear, look, I don't want to automate because I don't want to break something. How do you, from a business case perspective, kind of how do you bridge the pros and the cons of automation?
Yeah. And that was one we had early on as well, right? And we still do. We don't want to automate ourselves into a problem for sure, because we can do it really fast and we can do it at scale. And so we are very, I think, cautious in terms of what parts of the playbook we've automated and what parts still require intervention, right? So there are playbooks from cradle to grave that are fully automated, right? No analyst intervention. Nobody does a check. We're again, high fidelity alert. We're going to handle it this way every time, whether an analyst looks at it or doesn't. The answer is always going to be yes at the end or no at the end. But there's other ones that we don't have that confidence level in, and we do make sure that there's multiple, in some cases, multiple checks where an analyst intervenes, looks at what the SOAR has done to date, helps it do the next fork in the playbook, right? Oh, yes, this really still looks bad, or no, let's close the case here, or take another fork in the playbook. So depending, I think, on our own confidence level of that decision being able to be made well at a large percentage of the time, really is what drives whether it's fully automated or not. There's also, some of them fully automated, even even with intervention, might just lead to a ticket, right? Which in the ticketing system back to IT or back to another business unit, which is probably not terribly disruptive to the business, as opposed to an automation that might isolate a host or change something in a network configuration as part of a defensive measure. So it's really dependent on the playbook, our confidence in what we're seeing as we built that playbook out in terms of the fidelity of that alert and the accuracy of that alert over a long period of time. And then how confident in what type of response is actually taking place is what really gets us to how that playbook is executed end to end.
So John, nope, sorry, Matt.
Go ahead, Jason. No, you're good.
So many organizations struggle with adoption, right? So they buy the great tool, they put in the great tool, and then they don't realize the amount of effort for care and feeding, that it's a journey. It's not set it and forget it, especially when it comes to a SOAR. What are you doing to ensure adoption rates? Because, we have customers who, they'll buy technology, end up coming to us because they're like, we've only adopted 20% of this technology. We need to find the ROI. We need to get the value out of this. We need to be adopting 80% of the capabilities. Help, right? What are you doing within your organization to ensure that adoption rate is high with a tool like this? Because it has to be, right?
No, it does, or it pays off not at all, for sure. It ends up, in fact, really introducing even more challenges into your organization if you do it poorly. For us, it was challenging, that adoption piece, not the adoption piece of, are we going to put it in place and are we going to deploy it? Because that was just a decision we made from a security risk position that this was going to be very beneficial to us in the long run. The adoption piece for us was really making sure we got the analysts to buy in, and that we had the security operations team buying in, who maintains a lot of these platforms and the integrations, and really driving home to them that, hey, this is beneficial to you. This is where I need you working out of. I know that as good of an analyst as you are, you can't do 1,000 of these a day. I know that you can't mentally correlate this data in your mind over 1,000 cases a day. And so, really, I think showing them the benefit early on of kind of the work I'm going to take off your plate to let you go do better and bigger things took some time, but was a sell for sure. But we were getting people out of the individual tool sets and trying to do the best they could in a very siloed way. I think pretty quickly, though, people started to see the benefit and really started to be more engaged with the automation team and being able to take that kind of repetitive, I'm always going to do this the same all the time off. I think that people are seeing too, again, as we're talking about skill shortages and talent and upskilling, this was really an opportunity for them to embrace this and realize that this is the future in some form or fashion, that, doing detection alerts and clearing tickets is not the future of cybersecurity. And so I think, again, it took a little bit of effort on our part and a little bit of, I think, continuing to show people the benefits as we had those early deployments, really being able to show people how measurable that was, and that they could really start taking some of that time and going looking for the hard stuff, started to get people more excited. And that helped increase the adoption rate.
Yeah, no, that's great. And ultimately what it does is it creates that culture of innovation now, because now they want to innovate in the tool, right? We're taking a lot of that monotonous noise off their plate and allowing them to step up in their role and become innovators within the platform. That's great.
Yeah, no, it's really created a neat excitement within that group, and knowing how much more is out there. And again, them continuing to progress in their own careers and giving themselves more opportunity in the long run. So again, there's been a lot of these side benefits, and it's taken some time, but I think people are all on board now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feared that security automation meant that it was going to replace their job. Oh no, There's still plenty of work to do even with an automation tool. So once you get over that hump, then you can start to see the benefits. And to Jason's point, you start to innovate and mature and continually improve.
I think that's a good measure of success, though, when you've implemented something like that, John, and you see your team innovating on that platform, using it to solve different challenges. You've won. That's a winner. That tool is going to be around for a while.
Yeah, exactly right. And the people will be too, right? Because they continue to be motivated and engaged and excited, and they know that we're continuing to invest, obviously in the program, but also in them. And so it's been a great success for us. And we are really pushing that space, right? Again, we work a lot with the Palo Alto team, and they've got a great team that they pulled over from Demisto, and we're doing some unique things in there that some other customers aren't. So again, we're really leaning forward into it pretty strongly.
That's great. That's awesome. John, thank you so much for joining us on Business Security Weekly.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
You too. We're going to take a quick break and then cover the leadership and communications articles for this week.